Hello and welcome to the channel where we talk about all things card games and chill with friends. My name is Liam and today I want to showcase my Bloom Cup Promise deck profile. Now, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. Check out my other socials, links down in the description, and if you want to support the channel by any means, please consider becoming a member and hitting that join button down below. But let's jump straight in. So it's been a while since I've done an actual deck profile video, and I realize that this is a little out of date. However, I do want to make sure we cover this just before we go into the release of Set 2 Quintet Spectrum, because at the moment in time, we still don't know whether there's going to be an English restriction list. So recently I took part in a Bloom Cup at Patriot Games in Sheffield, and I piloted Promise, and I think this build is probably the safest build to go with. And I think for the sake of a Bloom Cup, it's the way to go. However, I totally understand that some deck profiles run a few cards in slightly different ratios, maybe running a bit more of a risky one-of. But this is the profile that I've gone for, and I thought I'd like to share it with you guys. Now, in terms of results from the Bloom Cup, I finished, well, apparently I finished third. I think that's down to the win-loss ratio things. But I did make it into the final game. I was one of the XOs into the final round, and it was XO versus XO. The other XO got the pair down, and they lost their game. So technically, it was the finals, and we did lose that game, unfortunately, due to a really rough start. It was a Promise mirror match, and they won the die roll and got the first turn. That's always an uphill battle when playing against Promise, regardless of what deck you're playing. But honestly, the deck played really smoothly, and I want to do a massive thank you to Medallia for helping me play test this and get comfortable with these new ratios. So yeah, I think the deck performs extremely well, and if Promise doesn't get restricted soon, Lord help us. But without further ado, let's jump into this deck profile. Starting off, of course, with the Oshi Holomem. We do run the Nanashi Mume with her Oshi skill for 2 holo power, Guardian of Civilization for once per turn. When one of your Promise Holomems are about to take damage, you may reduce that damage by 50 during your opponent's turn. And then also the SP skill, Amazing Drawing. Just search your deck for a event card for 2 holo power. It's an extremely good Oshi Holomem. The Oshi skill is extremely strong for keeping things alive that normally wouldn't, so enables you to stay in that game a little bit longer. And the SP skill to be able to grab an event that you want, either the Promise event or the So That Makes You My Enemy event, just as and when you need to, is extremely strong. So that is our Oshi. In terms of the cheer distribution, I do run it a little differently to some Promise decks. I run 17 white and 3 blue cheers. The reason for that is because the Crony debut can only attack specifically with a blue cheer. There are situations whereby you need that blue cheer to be able to make your Crony attack. It doesn't happen very often, and worst comes to worst, you know, you can just attach these to one of your Mumes or Iris, that's fine. But it's nice to have it there as a failsafe just in case. And I think 3 is more than enough. You could run 2 if you really wanted to. I think 3 is safe. And then obviously you want predominantly white as well for your main Holomems. Starting off with the Holomems, we're going to start off with Mume. We run 4 copies of her Unlimited debut. 10 plus, where you get an additional 20 damage if you play a support that turn for 1 white cheer and 90 HP. And then we run 4 copies of the Collab Mume, 60 HP Collab. If your center Holomem has Promise, you can draw a card on Collab, and then it's just a colorless cheer for 10 damage. You want to see this card super early on to try and increase your hand size as quickly as possible, which is why we run it as a 4 of, whilst it is quite squishy, so it is risky. And 9 times out of 10, if you're going second, you may even consider avoiding this card where possible. And I had considered actually dropping this to a 3 of, purely because of that fact. But the consistency of even having that draw, even if you are going second, making it a susceptible target to being down to turn 2, it's really not the end of the world. So I think still running as a 4-off is absolutely fine. Moving on to the first blooms for Mume, we run 4 copies of the Bloom Effect Idol Mume, 100 HP, Bloom Effect. When this is bloomed on top of a debut Holomem, you may search your deck for a first or debut non-buzz Holomem and add it to your hand. And it's got a 30 damage art for 1 colorless cheer. This card makes the deck so consistent, because if you can get multiple Mumes out turn 1, you can just have one of this in your hand. You can bloom into this first Mume, and then you can search for another first Mume. Bloom that, search for something else. Bloom that, if it's another Mume, search for something else. It really helps you thin the deck and also really rush towards finding your second Holomems, which is really good. And just taking cards out of your deck to increase the likelihood of drawing the cards that you need is always a good thing to do. We do also run 2 copies of the other first bloom Mume. For 1 white cheer, it's a 20+ art, which then you reveal the top card of your deck. If that card, or you may reveal the top card of your deck. If that is a Promise Holomem, this art gains 20 damage, and then put the revealed card to your hand. So basically, and the way that I see this, and I think sells this card more, it is basically an on-attack draw. Because yes, whilst you are revealing the card, regardless of what you reveal, you get to add that card to your hand. So this is a 20 damage or potentially 40 damage, and then draw 1. So this is another great way of getting extra cards to your hand. And it's got an extra 20 HP compared to the other Mume. So sometimes that is super relevant, especially into the Promise matchup, where that extra 20 HP can stop you being downed from a single swing with an Iris Bloom being played. So it can be super useful. And it's more importantly, it gives you an extra draw. Finally, of course, we do run 4 copies of the Nanashi Mume second. On collab, search your deck for any Promise Holomem. Collab effect of this is huge. And also its art for 1 white, 2 colorless is 70+ with an advantage of 50 to purple, which isn't relevant right now, but come set 2 does become a lot more relevant. But when you use this art during this turn, your collab and your center Holomem gain +10 damage for each Promise Holomem in your backstage. This is really good. So basically this is swinging for, if you can get your full backstage, 110 damage, and then it's also giving +40 to your other Holomem in your front row. And 190 HP is still pretty beefy for a second bloom. It's not the biggest, but it is still pretty nice. But realistically, this is your secondary search engine to find the other cards that you need for your deck, whether that be your other second blooms or other first blooms, or sometimes even debuts. It does come up sometimes that finding a debut can be really important because it lets you fill an empty slot in your backstage. So it is a really good card. And this is a 4-off because this is basically your main engine of attack and consistency for the Promise deck. Moving on to our second Holomem, Iris, we run 5 copies of her unlimited debut. 100 HP, 30 damage for a colorless cheer. Pretty good card. Now, some people do run the Iris from the start deck. Sometimes having access to your holo power is a good thing. Personally, in the current meta, that card only having 50 HP makes it super squishy and extremely likely to be downed. So personally, I would rather run this Iris with the 100 HP just so that you don't randomly lose a life for literally no reason, where if you get behind in life in this game, especially in the current meta, that can be the end of your game. Especially looking into set 2 meta, when you're going to be dealing with the likes of Rainier, which Rainier would normally run with either Marine, which would run the Kobo Oshi, which has 6 life. So you're already behind a life as he is in that build. Or you're running with the Eofi, with the Oli Oshi, which sure, you're dead on 5 life equal, so you could be a bit more risky on that, I guess. I do think that the Rainier Marine build will become more prominent. First Bloom Iris, of course, we run the Idol Iris, and we do run 4 copies. Bloom Effect. During this turn, your center and collab Holomem, and with Promise tag, gains 30 to their arts. Basically, this is a on Bloom, deal 60 extra damage this turn. This card is nuts. It needs to be restricted to 1. It is it's too good. It is just too good. It's either they limit it to one or they errata it so that it's similar to, I believe it's set 3 or 4 that got a similar card, which was on Bloom. Give your tagged holomems in center and front plus 10. So it's only a plus 20 overall. That is a lot more balanced. That makes a lot more sense. Plus 30 to both is absolutely nuts. And there's a reason why this card got restricted and is still restricted on the Japanese list. Finally, we run 2 copies of the Iris. Second Bloom, 20 HP on collab. You may look at your holo power, take 1 card from it, reveal it to your opponent, add it to your hand, and then put the top card of your deck into your holo power. This can sometimes get you cards that get lost to your holo power and can be super relevant in situations, but it's a bit of a high roll what you get, because realistically you're never gonna have more than say 3 holo power, because you're gonna be using your holo power for your Oshi skill. But there are times where this can be super useful, especially when you notice when you've gone through your deck and you've gone, this card is not here and it's also not in my archive, it must be in my holo power, I need to get to it. So sometimes co-level with this is fine, but 9 times out of 10 this will be your center holomem, because it's going to be your main attacker, and because of its attack, for 1 white 2 colorless cheer, power of promise 50 plus, and it gains an additional 20 damage for every promise card you have on your stage. That includes itself, so at most this can do 170 damage, or against red 220. That is huge. Iris is a real big hitter, and if you attack it alongside Mume as well, you can do 210, or with the advantage 260 damage. That will down any holomem. It is wild. But we only run it as a 2-off because 1, your second Mume can easily get this Iris, and there's ways of getting it as well. Of like, you've got your promise events, which we'll show later. But basically, to get this card is not the most difficult in the world. And you don't want to oversee it because you are focusing on the Mume line. If you oversee your second Iris, there could be a situation where you have these second Irises in your hand and nothing to do with them. So I think 2 is the correct number. I was running 3 beforehand with a slightly different, because I wasn't running these first Bloom Mumes. But I've dropped this to 2 to 1 make space for this card, and secondly because I just found through testing that 2 was enough. Finally, our next holomem, we have of course Roni. Her debut is a 70 HP, so it's kind of squishy. And for a blue cheer for 10 damage, when you attack with this, you may move a cheer from this holomem to one of your other holomem. The art is not super relevant. It comes up sometimes because you need to be able to attack with it and you happen to get a blue cheer on it. That isn't the reason why you run this card. The reason why you run this card is, of course, the first Bloom Crony with the Bloom effect. You get to reveal 1 cheer from your cheer deck with the same color as one of your holomems on stage, one of your promise holomems on stage, and then attach that cheer to any of your promise holomem cheers. So you can search your cheer deck for a blue cheer, because Crony is blue, so you'll definitely have the blue option, but then you can attach it to the Mume or the Iris. This can be really useful because there are times when you just want to get those blue cheers out of your cheer deck and just not risk, you know, flipping over a blue cheer and screwing yourself over. But other times as well where you actually want to specifically try and find that blue cheer and attach it to the debut Crony. This card is really good. You need the cheer ramp in this deck just so that you can get to your 3 cheer requirement for your seconds that little bit quicker. But yeah, this card is absolutely nuts. And again, the fact that this deck has already got the utility of the first Bloom Mume and the second Bloom Mume, and the aggression of the first Bloom Iris, the extra consistency and the cheer ramp ability of the Crony just makes this deck an extremely well-rounded build in terms of its holomems. Our supports, of course, we run 4 copies of Harusaki Nodoka on play, draw free. It's a limited. This card is a 4-of in every deck at the moment. It's a 4-of in this deck. I don't need to say more. We do run 4 copies of the Promise Limited. This is a limited that lets you, as long as you've got 6 or less cards in your hand, excluding this card, you may play it. And then if you do, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, add any Promise holomems amongst those 4 cards, reveal them, put them to your hand, and put the rest of the cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. This card is really, really good in terms of increasing your hand size. You can go from having like 5 or 6 cards to 8 or 9 or 10 in some situations. This card is extremely good, and it's an extremely good secondary draw option for this deck. And I think in this deck it absolutely works as a 4-off because you are running a high count of holomems. You're not running many supports at all. You're only running 14 supports, so 36 holomem. So this card works extremely well for this deck. If you were running a lower holomem count, I would maybe not go for this and maybe look at more like Mana-chan, or then evolving it into Mikorone with set 2. But this card is extremely good because of the high holomem count. We then also run 4 copies of normal PC. This card is nuts. This card is cracked, especially when you're running so many different types of debuts. You're running 4 different debuts in this deck, so having access to those and these basically becoming an extra debut in your deck is really, really good. A selective debut as well. It lets you get the Iris if you need the Iris, the Crony if you need the Crony, or the Mume if you need the Mume, as and when you need to. This card is extremely good for this deck and is absolutely worth the 4 slots. Finally, we run 2 copies of So That Makes You My Enemy. Another limited, it's an event, so it can be searched off of the Mume Espioshi skill. And it just lets you swap your opponent's center holomem with one of their back holomem. It is, if you know Pokemon, a boss's orders. It is an extremely good card for controlling your opponent's backstage, especially, for example, if they have a turn where, oh, I'm just going to leave a debut up front in the center, not collab, and I'm going to basically start preparing in my backstage to go to my first bloom, ready for my second bloom. You can use this to go, nope, I want your first bloom, thank you very much, and I'm going to down it right now, thank you. And you are not going to your second bloom. This is extremely, extremely useful, especially against Kanata and Suisei, where getting to their seconds is their ultimate goal. You can do a lot of this deck without actually getting to your seconds. Other decks like Kanata, like Suisei, they need to get to their seconds in order to really progress their game state and basically go for the win. So having So That Makes You My Enemy to basically control your opponent into stopping them from getting to their second bloom is absolutely huge. And that is my Promise deck profile. What do you think? And would you make any changes yourself? Let me know in the comments below. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you are new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you enjoy this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. Check out my other socials, links in the description. And if you want to support the channel even further, please consider becoming a member and hitting that join button down below. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.